reading from the Holy Gospel according to Matthew. When Jesus was born in Bethlehem of Judea, in the days of King Herod, behold, Magi from the east arrived in Jerusalem, saying, "Where is the newborn King of the Jews? We saw his star at its rising, and have come to do him homage." When King Herod heard this, he was greatly troubled, and all Jerusalem with him. Assembling all the chief priests and the scribes of the people, he inquired of them where the Christ was to be born. They said to him, "In Bethlehem of Judea, for thus it has been written through the prophet, And you, Bethlehem, land of Judah, are by no means least among the rulers of Judah, since from you shall come a ruler, who is to shepherd my people Israel." Then Herod called the Magi secretly, and ascertained from them the time of the star's appearance. He sent them to Bethlehem and said, "Go and search diligently for the child. When you have found him, bring me word, that I too may go and do him homage." After their audience with the king, they set out, and behold, the star that they had seen at its rising preceded them, until it came and stopped over the place where the child was. They were overjoyed at seeing the star, and on entering the house, they saw the child with Mary his mother. They prostrated themselves and did him homage. Then they opened their treasures and offered him gifts of gold, frankincense, and myrrh. And having been warned in a dream not to return to Herod, they departed for their country by another way. The Gospel of the Lord.
Our Gospel on this Epiphany Sunday is taken from Matthew. We have been reflecting on our journey towards Jesus, who is the light, our journey. In the first reading from Isaiah, the city Jerusalem is presented as the bearer of God's light. And for people who were enveloped in darkness, the light of God in Jerusalem is an attraction, and everyone will go to that city and hopefully will discover God, will adore God, and give homage to God. Jerusalem, the bearer of light, has a mission to gather the peoples, and we hope that the people will make that journey towards the light. In the second reading, St. Paul, writing to the Ephesians, expresses his own experience. The light is not anymore found in a city, but in the revelation of God in Jesus Christ. He himself had to make that journey to accept Christ. And having received Christ, he also realized that Christ is the light of God, the saving light of God, not only for the chosen people of Jewish descent, but also to the Gentiles. So people of every nation, seeing the light of Christ, will now come together in the body of Christ, the church. The church becomes the New Jerusalem, where people will worship God and people will become one new family, coming from different races, coming from different economic, political, and educational backgrounds. But what holds them in common and together is the light of Jesus Christ. The Gospel narrates to us the search of the astrologers for the newborn King of the Jews. Again, we find in this episode from St. Matthew different ways of responding to the light of Christ, and also, therefore, different ways of making the journey towards Christ. The astrologers, they come from the east, so they represent what we call the Gentiles or the pagan people. They do not belong to the chosen people of Israel. But they knew how to read the stars. And in the East at that time, they had a firm belief that the movements of the stars are related to events here on earth. They discovered this special star, which for them meant that the new king of the Jews was already born. So you could see that some of the traditions of the Jews had already spread. Even in the East, people must have heard that the Jews of old prophesied the coming of a new king. These astrologers, not believers, they're not believers, just reading the stars and knowing a bit of the Jewish expectation of a king, concluded, wow, this light is an indication that the new king had already been born. Seeing that light, they pursued it. They pursued the search. They traveled, and at that time, travel was not convenient. But they had to see this newborn king. They had to be present and to witness this earth-shaking event for the Jews. A new king is born. But since they did not know Israel, they went to Jerusalem. They even did not know, probably, that Isaiah already said in the first reading that Jerusalem is the bearer of the light. They chose the right place to go, Jerusalem. Now, you have another set of people. Those who knew the scriptures, those who knew the Pharisees, the prophecies, the scribes, the Pharisees. They were consulted by Herod, and they were able to identify the place, Bethlehem. But, you see, they knew Bethlehem would be the birthplace of the newborn king, but they did not care. They did not get excited. They did not start their own pilgrimage to Jerusalem to check whether the newborn king is really there. They did not care. This is indifference. The astrologers acted. They took the journey earnestly to look for the newborn king. The scribes, the experts in scriptures, unfortunately, they were indifferent to the fact. They did not do anything. They did not even start the journey in search of the king. Then the third is Herod. The news about this new king disturbed him and even the rest of Jerusalem. His position now is threatened. So he starts plotting against the king. This is another response, hostility. Not just indifference, but hostility. And we will know later on that he would order the assassination, the killing of all boys 2 years and below in Bethlehem and its environs. My dear brothers and sisters, I think it is good for us to check how are we in our search for Jesus. Are we like the astrologers who will be determined and committed to our following of Christ? It may take long, this process. We would probably encounter a lot of bumpiness along the way. We would encounter a lot of problems. But are we determined to journey so that we could be in union with Christ? Or do we experience moments of indifference? We do not care. I don't care. There are many other lights there, not just the light of Christ. Well, if I like him, I will search for him. But if I find other lights, well, okay. It doesn't matter to me. Are we like that? The whatever, whoever type of people? Or are we like Herod, hostile to Christ? Really being contrary to whatever he teaches, to whatever he shows us. Today, we celebrate Jesus' revelation, manifestation to all the world. Our role is to make the journey towards him. Have you started the journey? Are you ready for that long journey? How has your journey been so far? How do you handle the trials, the difficulties that you find along the way? And how do you also celebrate the graces and the blessings that that journey towards Christ also offers you along the way? You know, my dear brothers and sisters, before Christmas, I had the opportunity to celebrate Mass in the Maximum Bilibid prison. And aside from the Eucharist, which is always a moment of epiphany, a moment of God speaking to people through Jesus, and you could see how the light of Christ really invites a pilgrimage, an interior pilgrimage, to be undertaken even by people in jail. What another highlight for me was the group of the children of some of the inmates. Through the help of benefactors and well-meaning people and religious, these children were organized into a choir. And they sang beautifully like angels. And they played musical instruments. They were like professionals, These were little children. But as I was watching them, listening to them, there was a person beside me whispering the stories of these children. How difficult it is for a child to accept the fact that his or her parent has been charged with a crime. How does a child face his brothers and his friends when they ask, "Where is your father? Where is your mother?" How do they tell the story? And so this person told me, these children have suffered a lot, but they are witnesses to courage. They don't want to be derailed in their journey towards new life. Yes, there are ridicules. Yes, there are difficulties, but they persistently hope for a better life for them and their families. That is epiphany. That is following the light. So you, dear brothers and sisters, are you willing to undertake the journey towards Christ? The word has been exposed. Let us now fulfill it.